Kiwis love being outdoors, so why not transform your outdoor living space with a sun view? With our quality range of stylish pergolas, outdoor blinds and awnings, having a sun view is like adding a new room to your home, but for a fraction of the price. Enjoy the outdoors all year round with a range of products to suit your needs. Book a free consultation now with SunView and see the difference.
There's new data from the Auckland Property Investors Association shows landlords are feeling cautious. About 80% say their confidence depends on the next election. 56% say it matters significantly who will be in power. Many view the current policy climate as unsupportive, though some see it as stable. The biggest concern, the next government might undo major reforms like the Resource Management Act before they're finished. Investors say transparency would help. Compliance is also getting trickier, with nearly half reporting more administrative hurdles since late 2023. Their recommendations: politicians should commit to bipartisan housing policies, and voters should understand that constant policy reversals hurt both supply and affordability. Matt Ball is Advocacy Manager at New Zealand Property Investors Federation, and he joins us now. Matt, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Leah. How are you doing?
I'm good, mate. Good to talk again. Been a while. You been good?
It has. Yes, no, very well. Property investment, never a dull moment there.
Yeah, I bet. Hey, Maddie, can we first talk rents? Nationally, rents are down 3%. Is that mainly supply and demand, or other factors at play?
Yeah, I think the big factor is supply and demand. There might be some economic factors and migration factors as well, just suppressing supply. And you can see that in some of the areas. So Wellington is one of the areas that's worst hit by rents. And obviously, as we know, there's been a bit of a downsizing of government, though some people argue it hasn't changed. But, there have been jobs lost in Wellington. So that's changed things. Some of the student numbers in Wellington, one of the main student cities. It is mostly supply and demand. The other factor, of course, is there have been quite a few houses built. And because also the property market has dropped a bit as well, people are taking their house off the market and renting it, or a developer is happening now. Developers will get a bunch of properties they can't sell some, so they'll rent them out or Airbnb them. Definitely.
Well, some regions like Southland, Nelson Tasman, Taranaki aren't seeing drops. Can you talk why the market behaves differently there?
That's an interesting one. And so, for example, from Taranaki, from the Investors Association there, I'm actually getting slightly different feedback that they are experiencing some tough times. But if you look at Southland's booming. Yeah. Queenstown, you might be sort of chucking in there as well. That often comes in under Otago or Dunedin. So that area is actually doing really well, and that's clearly linked to the economy. The economy is booming. The rural sector is doing great, which is fantastic. So obviously there's a bit more demand down there, and the rents are holding up. So that's good.
Well, it's booming for them. That is good. How are investors responding to these changes, Matt? Are they adjusting expectations or just holding tight?
You mean the changes in supply and demand and so forth?
Yeah.
Look, it's a really interesting time at the moment. The national government, and particularly Chris Bishop leading the charge, has really pushed to see house prices come down and rents come down in a relative sense, relative to income. And the reason they're doing that is they want people to be able to afford to have somewhere to live. It's really important. Now, that has an effect on investors, and it's positive and negative. The positive thing is, when housing is in short supply, like it was in 2020 around the COVID time, 2021, and house prices go through the roof, who gets the chop? Investors. We're viewed as terrible, evil people who are putting up the price of housing and rents for everybody else. And that's when interest deductibility was removed. Remember that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's the positive thing. We need a good balance of supply and demand. The slight negative is that investors will need to be on their toes. So you can't just, relax and almost go into this by accident or on a casual basis.
No.
Treat it as a business because it is a business. It's, residential housing that you are providing for your customers, your tenants. And if you provide a good service, you won't have trouble finding tenants and you'll get a good rent. But if you're doing it on a casual basis, you could run into trouble. And something you mentioned earlier, compliance is tougher now, healthy homes, all the other different rules around housing that weren't there, say, 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
You've got to be on your toes. You've got to treat it.
Yes.
Take it seriously.
All right, let's talk about this new data too from your association. Landlords are feeling cautious. In fact, 80% of them say their confidence hinges on the next election. Matt, why is that?
Look, this is 100% true. It's really interesting to see this data. I often go and speak to associations around the country, and it's reflected in the comments I get back. And one that stuck with me was one from an investor who said, look, I can put up with a bad policy because I can adjust my strategy accordingly. But it's when it chops and changes every time there's a new government, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And it actually makes me worse off. So that is one factor. You want to have some stability. The other factor, I think, is once bitten, twice shy. So a lot of us now have had personal experience and bitter experience of the removal of interest deductibility. If Labour, Greens, Te Pāti Māori bring that in next time, I think you're going to see a very different reaction from investors compared to what happened last time. And I know that from another survey that we did. We did a snap poll, and we found that 80% of our members would need to take some kind of action if interest deductibility was removed again. Now, of those, 2/3 would put up rent if it was possible. Nearly 60% said they'd sell some property to reduce or eliminate their mortgage. Nearly 40% said they'd defer maintenance or upgrades, and a third said they'd sell up completely. So I think you would see a pretty big reaction. So people are nervous, that the tax bills people got, and that was the last tax bill was only in April this year for that policy. Don't forget, it's recent. They're rightly nervous.
Yeah. 82%, Maddie, said that they would back reforms if the government was more transparent. What kind of information are they talking about, or clarity would make the biggest difference?
Yeah, that's interesting. Clarity always helps. I've worked as a communications professional for many years, and one of the truisms is, if you don't say anything, if you leave a vacuum, it's filled by other people who fill it with misinformation. So it's just common sense to go out there and talk about your policies and tell people what you're up to. And I think for some of these policies, like take interest deductibility again, I hate to keep on banging on about it, but it's pretty big.
Yeah, it is.
If you bring that back, I'm sorry, but I don't think any amount of communication is going to make people feel better about it because they know how it developed. However, even that said, if they know it's going to happen and they know it's going to stay, they will adjust. They'll set up different financial structures and work around it, or they'll sell out completely. Other policies like changes to the Resource Management Act, the granny flat stuff, I think there's been pretty decent communication about that.
What feedback have you got on that, Matt, from your
granny
members?
flats?
Yeah, like making it easy to build them and put them up against fences and all sorts. I mean, that must be coming. That'd be good news to investors.
Kiwis love being outdoors, so why not transform your outdoor living space with a sun view? With our quality range of stylish pergolas, outdoor blinds and awnings, having a sun view is like adding a new room to your home, but for a fraction of the price. Enjoy the outdoors all year round with a range of products to suit your needs. Book a free consultation now with SunView and see the difference.